people of Israel, listen to the teachings of our God. That is not Judaism, and they have no right to use the name of Israel. They've usurped our name, they've stolen our symbols, and they've stolen our identity. And they are causing death and destruction year in and year out. For over 50 years, death and bloodshed has not stopped because of a pure ideological belief called Zionism. They sacrifice on their idol bodies, human beings, hearts, souls. They rent, they've destructed houses, they've destructed people's lives.
Please pay attention to the fact that the Zionists are not Jewish people. They have no religion. They have no religion. They're neither Jews, nor Christians, nor Muslims. They just wear a mask of religiosity. How can you possibly be religious and occupy the lands of other people? How can you call yourself a religious person and kill women and children?
Well, they come from a
women and children who are besieged and as a result cannot have access to medicine.
Now, what are the facts? The Jews, I call them Jews to you because they're known as Jews. I don't call them Jews. I refer to them as so-called Jews because I know what they are. Certainly, our Lord and Savior was not one of them, and I can prove that. Now what happened? The Eastern European Jews, who form 92% of the world population of those people who call themselves Jews, were originally Khazars. They were a warlike tribe that lived deep in the heart of Asia. And they were so warlike that even the Asiatics drove them out of Asia into Eastern Europe.
We were taught by the historians and within our own traditions that when the Romans conquered Judea, a few hundred years after that the tribes of Israel went into exile, perhaps millions of Judeans were sold into slavery. And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is most likely there is something there. And most likely maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white, Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts from Rome.
You are a damn culture bandit, that's what you are. How could the Jews leave Israel black and return white?
I know that you're very concerned about the civilian casualties. Well, we do not share your concern about civilian casualties at all. In fact, we're conducting these surgical operations against schools, mosques, hospitals, universities, children, and one of the things that we're doing is trying to maximize the number of civilian casualties. We prefer that. I know that you understand this, but if not, this is something that I don't have to explain to Americans, President Obama, you, and the international community. Welcome to Jerusalem.
That white phosphorus reaches a temperature of, if your imagination is capable of grasping it, 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. and it burns the skin, and it burns right through to the bone. Israel dropped the white phosphorus over Al-Quds Hospital. It dropped the white phosphorus over the UN Beit Lahia school, which contained 1,600 Palestinians seeking shelter from the massacre. It dropped the white phosphorus over the UN warehouse containing food and medicine, huge quantities for the people of Gaza.
Well, you shouldn't be surprised. Throughout history, people believed the most outrageously absurd things about the Jews. That we were using the blood of children to bake matzahs, that we were spreading the plague throughout Europe, that we were plotting to take over the world. Yeah. So you see, attempts to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel, the most threatened democracy on earth, are simply the latest chapter in the long and dark history of anti-Semitism. Those who wear the BDS label should be treated exactly as we treat any anti-Semite or bigot. They should be exposed and condemned. The boycotters should be boycotted.
اما بدانید اینا دروغ میگن، اینا یهودی نیستن، بلکه یک مشت جنایتکار فاسدند که از نام یهودیت سوء استفاده میکنند. اونها دروغ میگن.
Will pressure be brought to bear on Israel, or will it be brought to bear on Hamas? Hamas should be responsible for the use of human shields. They are putting missiles and military command centers in hospitals, for crying out loud. That's something that the world should be outraged about. Not outraged at Israel for defending itself against this rocket attack, but outraged at Hamas for using its own people as human shields.
We needed to cleanse the neighborhoods, the buildings, the area of the neighborhood. It sounds really terrible to say cleanse, but those were the orders. I don't want to make a mistake with the words. I don't remember if it was the squadron or the battalion commander, but with a laser he simply marked for us the line of homes that were to be hit. He said clearly, every house gets a shell. That was the assignment, and it was our job, the tanks, to do it. The order was very clear. If a car came within 200 meters of me, I could simply shoot a shell at it.
We entered the city in a big hullabaloo, shooting like crazy. None of us knew what we were shooting at. There were those who shot at mosques. As far as I was concerned, if they didn't shoot at me from a specific mosque, then I had no reason to harm someone's religion.
My wife and my mum had a surprise for me. What surprise? Well, my mum had bought me a new plasma TV. So I entered our home and saw the new telly. Now, I'm not mad on television, but my mum thought I'd be so happy to see the plasma. They'd hung up new shelves and painted the walls. They'd fixed up the house so that I returned to a renovated home. All clean, newly decorated. And I stood and looked at the house, and I just couldn't accept it.
There's no country on earth that would tolerate missiles raining down on its citizens from outside its borders. So we are fully supportive of Israel's right to defend itself from missiles landing on people's homes and workplaces and potentially killing civilians. And we will continue to support Israel's right to defend itself.
And then you've got the Israeli army, which I like to refer to as one of the best trained, best equipped, best fed terrorist organizations in the world. And yes, they have generals and they have nice uniforms, but their entire purpose is terrorism. As Israel began its attack on Gaza, September the 27th, 2008, at 11:25 in the morning, what I refer to as the most shameful day in the Jewish history, the most shameful day in the history of the Jewish people. Israel began carpet bombing Gaza, and on the first day of what was to be a 21-day attack, they dropped 100 tons of bombs. Okay, a 1-ton bomb will decimate an entire city block. Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world. 800,000 children live in Gaza. 11:25 is exactly the time when the morning school shift and the afternoon school shift change. So all the kids are in the streets. All the children are on the streets. That was the moment decided by the decision makers in Israel to begin the attack. This was the first day of a 21-day slaughter that had absolutely no justification. If that's not terrorism, I don't know what is.
Israel has been invading and occupying Lebanon all of my 24-year-old daughter's life. The Hezbollah are a part of the Lebanese national resistance.
Let's stop you there, Mr. Galloway. Prescribed terrorist organizations, one man's terrorist.
In most people's eyes, Israel is a terrorist state. It's the fact that you cannot comprehend that fact that leads to the bias which runs through all of your reporting and every question that you've asked me in this interview. You're not going out of business as a newscaster in Jerusalem anytime soon, believe me.
Well, as usual, you have prompted a huge email response both for and against you, Mr. Galloway, so we'll leave it there. I have to say that some people might find it offensive when more families are mourning their dead to hear you say that it was a bloody Good Friday. So
you don't give a damn. You don't even know about the Palestinian families. You don't even know that they exist. Tell me the name of one member of the 7 members of the same family slaughtered on the beach in Gaza by an Israeli warship. You don't even know their name.
Name me another country in the world. 2003, Israel was the cheerleaders for the war in Iraq. 2006, it went into war in Lebanon. 2008, 2009, it attacked Gaza. Now it talks about attacking Iran. If you read the Israeli papers every day, they talk about, should we attack Gaza? Should we attack Lebanon? Should we attack Syria? Name me another country in the world that falls into that category.
Well,
that's a lunatic state.
The entire policy is intended to create havoc in the Middle East, and it is extremely important that people around the world begin to fully comprehend that these policies that are being carried out in the Middle East are actually not failures. I'm getting sick of hearing so-called experts talking about geopolitics and how America is failing to learn from its mistakes and all of this nonsense. These are not mistakes. These are intentional policies to wreak havoc, to sow the seeds of sectarian hatred. Again, let me cite the fact that before we took Saddam Hussein out in Iraq, there was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq. Also, when we played this game in Libya, there was no such thing as ISIS and all of this madness that's going on in Libya today. Syria, again, while it had its problems, and it certainly had its human rights abuses, most definitely did not have the problem that it has today. Every country that we touch by Western policy, every country that we touch in the Middle East is full of these monsters. Let's look to Iran, the country that we claim to be the biggest threat to everyone, the Israeli Jewish supremacist agenda, which constantly tells us that Iran is the big threat to the world and that it wants to wipe Israel off the map. Let's look at Iran. Let's look how many attacks by Al-Qaeda and ISIS are occurring here. Let's look at how Iran has been fighting MEK, a true terrorist force that has killed over 20,000 people in the last 20 years or so. This nation is fighting terrorism legitimately. It has provided sanctuary to Jews and Christians historically over the millennia. It has not indulged in any war for hundreds of years other than the imposed war in which we forced with our attack dog Saddam Hussein, and yet we are being told that Iran is the threat. Here I sit in Tehran, and I can tell you the threat from ISIS is next to none. And the reason why is because Iran is not a player in this nasty game in which Saudi Arabia, Qatar, other Gulf states, Turkey, Jordan, ourselves, Britain, France, all